The impeachment inquiry, the House Judiciary Committee holding a hearing yesterday. It was quite the hearing, questioning constitutional scholars on whether the president should be impeached.
If we cannot impeach a president who abuses his office for personal advantage, we no longer live in a democracy. We live in a monarchy, or we live under a dictatorship.
President Trump invited, indeed demanded, foreign involvement in our upcoming election. He struck at the very heart of what makes this a republic to which we pledge allegiance.
If what we're talking about is not impeachable, then nothing is impeachable.
If you impeach a president, if you make a high crime and misdemeanor out of going to the courts, it is an abuse of power. It's your abuse of power. You're doing precisely what you're criticizing the president for doing.
One of the most controversial moments came when law professor Pamela Karlan mentioned President Trump's 13-year-old son, Barron.
And I'll just give you one example that shows you the difference between him and a king, which is the Constitution says there can be no titles of nobility. So while the president can name his son Barron, he can't make him a baron.
This led to a response from the First Lady, Melania Trump. She tweeted this: "A minor child deserves privacy and should be kept out of politics. Pamela Karlan, you should be ashamed of your very angry and obviously biased public pandering and using a child to do it." Karlan then apologized. Watch this.
I want to apologize for what I said earlier about the president's son. It was wrong of me to do that. I wish the president would apologize, obviously, for the things that he's done that's wrong, but I do regret having said that.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is expected to make an announcement on impeachment in just about an hour. We're going to take that for you live, and we'll be heading into it coming up. But first, joining us right now is Florida Congressman, House Judiciary Committee member Greg Steube. And Congressman, what a day you had yesterday in your committee. Give us your reaction to all that took place.
Yeah, it was a long day, and what you saw there is how partisan and how much hatred and vitriol you have from these professors, except the Republican professor, for our president. To bring up his son and his name, you could tell. And the other thing, too, that I like to talk about is these are all opinions from law professors.
Right.
They are not basing their opinion on fact. Nothing that they talked about was fact. And there was a Republican congressman that asked them during the hearing, if any of you has direct evidence as it relates to the president, raise your hand, and nobody raised their hand, because it's all opinions. So again, we're in the Judiciary Committee, and we're not talking about facts or evidence before the American people as it relates to the impeachment of this president.
It's quite extraordinary, actually. And, you know, you make a good point that these were basically witnesses that the Democrats brought down to agree with them. And they obviously were also Trump haters. I just want to point out that we do have a Fox Business alert. United Airlines is announcing that its CEO, Oscar Munoz, will become effective chairman of the board of directors. He's stepping down as CEO. These changes are going to take effect following the annual shareholders meeting in May 2020. The stock is trading basically flat, but the company's president, Scott Kirby, will become the new CEO in May of 2020. But Congressman, I'm going to get back to the impeachment hearing for a second, because what I find really extraordinary is all of this conversation about this phone call with the president of Ukraine, suggesting that President Trump is trying to enlist help from foreigners in the election, in his election, and no comment whatsoever in the fact that Hillary Clinton actually paid for the dossier written in Russia to undo Donald Trump. So, I mean, you know, once again, it's exactly what the other side did. They're saying Donald Trump is doing.
Well, and if we had more time as Republicans, you only get 5 minutes, so you have to kind of focus what your thoughts are going to be. But one of the things I wanted to ask the three Democratic witnesses is, so you're saying a phone call asking a foreign leader to investigate corruption by American citizen is an impeachable offense, then you believe that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden should have been impeached for their conduct that he admitted to on national television. But of course, you only have 5 minutes, so you can't get into a lot of these details. The chairmen and the rankers had 45 minutes with staff, and so I wish they would have gotten into some of that. But the hypocrisy from the Democrats on all these issues is phenomenal. It
is pretty extraordinary, actually, with all of this conversation around President Trump and absolutely no acknowledgement of the fact that Hunter Biden took a trip with then Vice President Joe Biden on Air Force Two, came back to China while the Vice President was doing official business, came back from the trip with $1.5 billion for his fund.
The Biden brand has taken some damage from from this. Not a lot, as you suggest, but I have a question for the congressman. Can you help me handicap whether we're going to get this NAFTA 2.0 deal done or not? The people's business is not happening while all this craziness is occurring. Can we get a deal signed before year end? I care as an investor. I'd like to see this deal go through.
It's 100% up to Speaker Pelosi. It has been on her desk for almost a year now. Her own members have been asking her to bring it up for a vote. I bet if it's brought up for a vote, it passes with overwhelmingly bipartisan support. I've done floor speeches asking the Speaker to bring it up for a vote. Democrats have done floor speeches asking to bring it up for a vote. So we keep asking for it, but now we're almost to the end of the year, and she still hasn't put it up for a vote.
By the way, my sources tell me that it is coming to the House floor within the next 2 weeks, and I got another tidbit last night, which is that I understand what they would like to do is vote on it simultaneously in the House and the Senate. Now, I find that extraordinary. I can't imagine that actually happens within 2 weeks. But if we were to get that and then get it onto the president's desk before, by doing that simultaneously, that would actually be incredible.
We don't have that many working days left.
Right. They only have 2 weeks left. That's absolutely right.
You got to get a budget done before December 20th. So that's got to happen at some point, too, or we're going to go into a shutdown again.
The Wall Street
Government shutdown,
The Wall Street Journal has an exclusive on this. It was published late yesterday that Nancy Pelosi is pushing to strip out sweeping legal protections for online content in the new trade pact with Mexico and Canada, internet companies that fought for the provisions in the USMCA deal with those two countries.
But I feel like these are such little tweaks that it's done. They have an enforcement in there in terms of labor and the salaries for American workers versus Mexican workers. They have also language in there for patents, and now you're talking about this internet element from the Wall Street Journal. These are all tweaks. I feel like they're coming up with things that they want changed. Just to hold it up.
This deal is going to be good for the market when it hits.
Yes.
It's going to be great.
And it's going to be very good for President Trump.
I want to invest in timber, for example. Sign it and let me get into timber. It's going to be good.
Going to be great for our country as well.
Yeah, Congressman, let me ask you about troops in the Middle East, because we have new reports this morning that the administration is considering deploying as many as 14,000 to combat any retaliation from Iran amid these new sanctions. That's according to the Journal this morning. The Pentagon is denying the report. It denied the report on Twitter yesterday, but you served in Iraq. Your reaction to what we're seeing with Iran, are you expecting a retaliation from Iran, as a lot of the reports seem to be suggesting that that's coming?
Well, I stand with the president in ensuring that our partner Israel is protected, and if the Iranians are being aggressive in any way, shape, or form or nature, if we want to send a show of force, I 100% support the president in that. And when I served in Iraq, the Iranians were responsible for killing over 600 of my brothers and sisters in arms through IEDs and explosive devices that were manufactured in Iran. So anything that we can do to quell down Iranian aggression in the region is, one, great for the region, and I think very important for the safety and security of Americans.
All right, we'll be watching. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you too.
A lot of topics
Thanks.
there. Congressman Greg Steube joining us.